Jason lived alone in a dusty little house on the edge of planet Vorta 6. The world was quiet, dry, and full of sandstorms. People here didn't talk much. Jason liked it that way. No noise. No trouble. Just his machines. One day, Jason was scrolling through a weird online auction site looking for a cheap helper bot. He saw an ad that said, "Smart Pet Limited Edition. Low price. High intelligence." It was listed for only 200 credits. The picture showed a small, round crate with glowing lines. No other info. Jason raised an eyebrow. "Probably junk," he muttered. But something about it caught his attention. He clicked buy. 3 days later, the crate arrived. It was late evening. The wind outside howled softly, blowing red sand across Jason's metal porch. He walked out, looked at the box and frowned. It was shaking. Soft thuds came from inside. Like something alive. Jason tilted his head. What the hell? He tapped the box. The noise stopped. For a few seconds, all was silent. Then tap, 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 like a weak hand knocking from the inside. Jason's heart beat a little faster. This isn't a cleaning drone. He pulled the crate inside and set it on the workbench. His dog Bot Rusty barked twice and backed away. Even machines could sense something was off. Jason looked at the label. Smart PET handle with care. No return address. He grabbed a wrench and slowly opened the latch. The top popped open with a hiss of cold air. A soft light spilled out. Jason leaned forward and froze. Inside, curled in the corner like a scared animal, was a girl. Not human, not robot. An alien. She looked about 14 in human years. Her skin was pale blue, with tiny glowing lines running across her arms and cheeks. She had silver hair, tangled and dirty. Her eyes were huge bright purple and glowing slightly in the dark. She wore a thin cloth robe, like a hospital gown, around her neck. Was a broken metal collar. She looked up at Jason with pure fear. In her eyes, Jason took a step back. What the? The girl didn't speak. She pressed herself into the crate wall, shaking, her arms covering her head. She made soft, frightened sounds like tiny cries. Jason raised his hands. Hey, hey. I'm not gonna hurt you. Still no response. Jason slowly grabbed a blanket and held it out. Here, you must be cold. She didn't move. He placed it inside the crate and stepped away. After a few seconds, she snatched the blanket and wrapped it around herself. Her small body shivered. Jason sat down on a chair and stared at her. This wasn't a pet. This wasn't a robot. She was alive. Intelligent. And clearly abused. Where the hell did you come from? He whispered. Hours passed. The girl didn't sleep. She just sat there, eyes wide open, watching every movement Jason made. He brought her water. She didn't touch it. He tried food, simple soup. She didn't eat. When he came too close, she flinched and pulled back, shaking her head. Jason sighed. This is not what I ordered. But I can't just throw her out. He walked to his desk and tried checking the order history on his device, but the site was gone. Error 404. His order log was wiped. Great, he muttered. I've been scammed with a life. Night came. Jason turned off most of the lights, left a soft lamp near the crate, and lay down on his bed. He couldn't sleep. His mind kept going back to her eyes. Those big, purple eyes full of fear and silence. Suddenly, he heard a noise. A soft creak. Then small footsteps. He looked up. She was standing at the edge of the bed, holding the blanket tight around her. Her eyes were still full of fear, but also curiosity. Jason slowly sat up. Hey, you okay? She didn't answer. But then, she did something unexpected. She reached out her hand and touched his arm. Just for a second. Then she pulled back and ran back to the crate. Jason didn't move. That touch, it wasn't random. It was a question, a test, and maybe a tiny bit of trust. He lay back down, whispering to himself, this isn't just a smart pet. This is something way bigger. And someone wants her to stay hidden. Outside, the wind picked up again, blowing harder than before. But inside the small house on Vorta 6, something strange had begun. Not a transaction. Not a job, a bond, and the mystery of who or what Nova truly was just beginning. Jason woke up to silence. Too silent. Usually, his old machine Rusty would beep or scratch the floor in the morning. But today, the house felt still, the kind of stillness that meant something had changed. He sat up slowly. Crate was open. The blanket was gone. Nova was missing. Jason stood, heart thumping, and scanned the room. His eyes moved to the corner near the supply shelf and stopped. She was sitting there, wrapped in the blanket, hugging her knees. Her eyes were open wide, staring at the sunlight coming in through the window. She blinked slowly, like she had never seen morning before. Jason didn't say anything. He didn't want to scare her again. He walked to the kitchen and heated some water, then made 2 simple bowls of porridge. He placed one on the table and one on the floor near her. She didn't move. He sat down near his bowl and started eating. Quietly. Nova turned her head, sniffed the air, then looked away. She didn't touch the food. "Come on," Jason said softly. "It's not poison." She flinched. Jason cursed under his breath. "Who did this to you?" A few hours later, he tried giving her fruit. A soft bread roll. Even sweet candy. She didn't touch any of it. She just watched him like a wild animal, unsure if the hunter was done. Jason rubbed his face. "You're not gonna last like this," he thought for a moment. Then remembered something. He dug through a storage drawer and pulled out an old translator device. It was dusty and scratched but still worked. He clipped the earpiece and activated it. Small green light blinked. He slowly walked over and placed the translator gently on the floor near her. "Try this," he said, sitting down at a safe distance. Nova looked at the device, then at him. She waited. Nothing happened. He spoke again. "Can you understand me?" No response. The translator stayed silent. Jason frowned. "Your language isn't in the system?" He tried switching settings. Still nothing. Then Nova did something strange. She tapped the translator twice and slid it back toward him. Jason blinked. That wasn't fear. That was understanding. "You knew what it was," he whispered. She hugged her knees tighter. Later that evening, Jason went out to fix a solar panel. He didn't want to leave her alone, but the power was fading fast. He locked the door from the outside and came back after 20 minutes. When he returned, the food was gone. Both bowls empty. He smiled. "So you do eat." But when he looked closer, something was off. The spoons were still clean. She had eaten with her hands, like someone who didn't know what a spoon was or wasn't allowed to use one. Jason felt a cold anger build in his chest. Whoever raised her didn't treat her like a person. Night came again. Jason stayed at his workbench, pretending to fix a drone. But he was watching her. She had curled up in the crate again, using the blanket like a shell. He whispered softly, "You're not a pet." She looked up. Their eyes met. Jason stood and walked to a storage cabinet. He pulled out a tiny stuffed toy bear. It was old and patched but soft. He placed it near her crate and walked away. She stared at it for a long time. Then, slowly, she pulled it in with her blanket. Later that night, Jason woke to a sound. The girl was sleep-talking. He sat up and listened. It wasn't English, not Galactic standard either. It was a soft, broken language, full of strange clicks and whispers, but one word repeated, over and over, Kalen. Jason wrote it down, unsure what it meant. A name? A place? A cry? The next morning, something even stranger happened. Jason walked in with fresh food and found Nova crouched beside Rusty, his dog bot. She wasn't afraid. She was trying to open the side panel. Like she was studying it. Jason watched in silence. She clicked something inside the bot's body and fixed a joint that had been stuck for months. Rusty stood straighter, barked clearly, moved smoother. Jason's mouth fell open. "That's high-level repair tech," he said. "How the hell?" Nova stood up and backed away like she was in trouble. Jason didn't get mad. He didn't yell. He just said softly, "You're not a pet, you're someone important." Nova looked at him, her purple eyes filled with fear and confusion. She didn't speak, but she didn't run either. Jason knew now she had knowledge, skills, and pain far deeper than anything she let show. And someone, somewhere, might be looking for her. But before he could ask more, a small red light blinked on his wall panel. A message alert. From the Border Patrol. "Have you received any unknown shipments recently? Report immediately." Jason's blood ran cold. He turned toward Nova. And for the first time, she looked scared of more than just him. Asterisk. It all started with a screwdriver. Jason couldn't find it. He searched every shelf, every drawer in the workshop. It was gone. "Rusty," he called. "Did you roll over it again?" The dog bot barked once and wagged its metal tail. Jason bent down to check under the bench and froze. The missing screwdriver was there. But it wasn't alone. Laid out next to it was every part of the drone Jason had been repairing, disassembled perfectly, wires grouped, screws sorted by size, tools neatly placed like an engineer had been at work. But Jason hadn't touched that drone in 2 days. He stood up slowly and turned around. Nova was sitting on the floor near the wall, staring at him. Her purple eyes blinked once. Jason walked over, holding the screwdriver like a clue. "You did this?" Nova said nothing. Jason looked back at the parts. They weren't just pulled apart. They were organized, labeled, and cleaned. "You're not just smart," he said. "You've been trained. You've seen machines like this before." Nova didn't reply, but she tilted her head slightly, like she was watching his reaction. That was when Jason knew she understood everything. Jason didn't say anything for a while. He simply sat at the table and looked at her. "You're not a pet," he whispered. "You're an engineer." Nova hugged her knees tighter. Later that day, Jason gave her a piece of old tech, a broken mining scanner. He placed it gently on the floor near her. Without a word, Nova slid it toward herself, opened the back panel, and began working. Her fingers were fast but careful. She didn't guess she knew what she was doing. Within minutes, the screen blinked. Working. She had fixed it. Jason's hands trembled slightly. He had been a tech for years, and even he needed the manual for that model. Nova just knew that night. Jason watched her from the workbench. She was drawing on an old piece of metal, using a thin wire like a pen, lines, circles, strange shapes, symbols. Some looked like star systems. He walked over slowly and pointed. "What's this?" Nova paused, then tapped 3 dots in a row. Jason leaned closer. The pattern was familiar. He searched it online. His face went pale. It was a star map, but not one humans had ever mapped. A system outside their registered space. "Where did you see this?" he asked. Nova looked at him quietly and pointed up at the sky. Jason didn't sleep that night. His mind was racing. Who was she? Where was she from? And most of all, why was she sold as a pet? He couldn't stop thinking about the message from Border Patrol. If they knew he had Nova, what would they do? He looked over at her crate. She was sleeping inside, holding the stuffed bear, one hand gently glowing with soft blue light. That glow wasn't just pretty. It was power. And if someone powerful was missing her, Jason's quiet life might be ending fast. The next morning, it got worse. Jason opened his com screen and saw a new message. Warning, illegal hybrid tech reported. Description: female, silver hair, glowing eyes. May appear childlike. Extreme danger. Report sightings immediately. Jason's stomach dropped. The picture was her. They didn't call her a person. They called her tech. They called her dangerous. Jason stood frozen as Nova walked into the room, blinking at the bright screen. She saw her face on it. Her glow faded. Her breathing quickened. Then she ran, straight out the back door. Nova! Jason shouted, chasing after her. She ran barefoot across the sand, the wind slapping her hair across her face. She didn't look back. Jason finally caught up near a half-buried shuttle wreck. He grabbed her hand. "I'm not giving you up," he shouted. She struggled. Her face was full of tears. "I'm not like them," Jason said, softer now. "I don't want to sell you. I don't want to hurt you." She shook her head, whispered something too soft to catch. Jason leaned in. She whispered again. "I'm not supposed to feel." Jason stared. "What?" Nova looked away. "I was built, not born." Jason sat in the sand beside her, stunned. Nova wasn't just an alien. She was a creation, a living machine, a hybrid experiment. But she cried. She felt pain. She dreamed. She remembered things. She wasn't just programming. Jason placed a hand gently on hers. "You're not just tech to me. You're real. I don't care what they say." Nova looked at him. This time, her glowing eyes didn't show fear. They showed trust. And for the first time, hope. But far above them, a small drone blinked once. They had been seen. Asterisk, the drawing was torn. Jason found it near the bed, ripped in half, tossed in the trash like a painful memory. It was the picture Nova had been working on for days. A small figure in a cage, surrounded by tall shadows, wires, and fire. The second half of the image, now gone, had shown something else. The same figure outside the cage, holding someone's hand. Jason stared at the torn edge. She had been trying to tell him something, and now she was trying to forget it. He looked at Nova sitting quietly near the window. The sun lit up her silver hair, but her face was blank, expressionless. Like a mask she had learned to wear. She no longer flinched when he walked near, but she also no longer smiled. Jason sat beside her. Not too close. He pulled out the old translator again. Still nothing? He turned it on and waited. The green light blinked. Jason spoke softly. "Nova, I want to help, but I need to know what you are. Where you came from." Nova looked at the device, then at him. She reached forward and pressed one finger to it. The light turned red. Language not recognized. It said in a mechanical voice. Nova looked away. Later that night, Jason had an idea. He took an old memory reader, a tool used to extract data from broken bots, and connected it to a visual projector. Then he gently showed it to Nova. Her eyes narrowed. Jason didn't speak. He simply handed it to her. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. He connected it to her wrist, just near the glowing lines on her skin. The screen blinked. At first, only static. Then images. Flashes. A white lab, bright lights, alien doctors with masks, wires in her arms, a glowing tank filled with blue liquid. Jason watched in silence as Nova trembled. Next image. She was younger, her hair shorter, a voice speaking alien language but with clear commands. She stood still, eyes blank. A collar snapped around her neck. Then, punishment. A spark of pain through her body whenever she disobeyed. Jason's fists clenched. Who would do this to a child? Suddenly, the screen cut off. Nova had yanked the device from her arm. She was crying, her face down, hands shaking. Jason reached toward her, slowly. "It's okay. You don't have to show more." Nova lifted her head. Tears glowed on her cheeks, catching the faint blue light of her skin. Then she did something she hadn't done before. She looked Jason in the eye and whispered, "You're different." Jason blinked. It was the first full sentence she had ever spoken. The next day, Nova began changing. She watched more. She followed Jason as he fixed drones. She picked up tools, touched wires, and even helped reprogram Rusty's logic chip. Jason taught her words, food, water, safe, home. She learned faster than any machine he'd seen. But sometimes, she would still freeze. At loud noises. At sirens. Or when a ship passed too low in the sky. Jason knew. Why now? She wasn't just afraid of the past. She was afraid of being taken back. One evening, Jason and Nova sat on the porch. The desert wind was calm. The sky burned orange with the setting sun. Nova looked up and pointed to 3 stars. Home, she said softly. Jason followed her finger. Your planet? She nodded. Jason wanted to ask more, but then his screen beeped. A security alert. Ship had landed nearby. Unregistered. Jason stood quickly and checked the feed. A small black craft. No ID, no beacon. Then he saw it. A symbol. A red triangle over a circle. He had seen it in her memory flash. The lab. The ones who made her. They've found you, Jason whispered. He turned to Nova. We need to hide. But she didn't move. She stood still, staring at the ship in the distance. Her face was pale. She spoke one word, voice shaking. Collectors. Jason grabbed her hand and pulled her inside. Pack light, he said. We're leaving. Nova didn't ask where. She just followed, because deep down, she knew this wasn't just escape anymore. It was survival. Inside the house, Jason quickly threw together a bag, food, tools, credits, and one old photo of his family. He turned to Nova, who stood by the door, still holding the small stuffed bear. Her hands were tight, her eyes full of fear, but also something new. Anger. Are you ready? He asked. She nodded once, then whispered, no cages, never again. Jason looked at her, truly looked, and for the first time, saw the truth. She wasn't just an alien. She wasn't just a victim. She was someone who would fight back. The sandstorm came without warning. 1 minute, the sky was clear. The next it turned blood red. Jason's front sensors started screaming. High winds, blinding dust. Zero visibility in minutes. But it wasn't just a natural storm. This one was too perfect, too sudden, too timed. Jason stood by the window, jaw tight, watching the cloud of red swallow the desert horizon. Somewhere in that storm, a black ship waited. And it wasn't there to talk. Nova sat near the back door, silent, still, holding the stuffed bear. She hadn't moved since Jason said, we have to run. Jason packed fast food tools, the last water filter, a backup battery for Rusty. He looked at Nova again. She was shaking, but not crying. He knelt beside her. Nova, they're not here to take you. I won't let them. She slowly looked up. They don't leave witnesses. Jason's stomach sank. This wasn't a search. It was a cleanup. They ran out the back, cloaked in dust. Jason led her down a hidden tunnel he dug long ago for smuggling old tech. It went beneath the cliffs and out into the canyon, a place even drones had trouble scanning. Rusty rolled beside them, silent and fast. Every few seconds, the wind roared above like a monster's breath. Nova clutched the bear tight in one hand, and Jason's jacket in the other. Jason kept moving. His fingers brushed the pistol on his belt. He hadn't fired it in years. But tonight might be different. When they reached the end of the tunnel, Jason stopped. Above, the sky was a dark swirl. A black shadow hovered overhead, a small ship, with silent engines and a red spotlight sweeping the ground. Nova froze. Jason turned and whispered, can you jam them? Nova blinked. Then nodded. She dropped to her knees, pulled open Rusty's back panel, and began connecting wires. Jason had seen her fix machines. But now, she was rewriting them, faster than any tech he knew. A pulse shot out from Rusty's core. Above them, the ship's spotlight flickered, then went dark. Jason smiled. That'll buy us time. Nova stood up, but her legs trembled. Jason caught her. You okay? I used too much, she whispered. Jason helped her walk. Just hold on. We're almost safe. They reached an old outpost buried beneath the canyon rocks. Jason had used it once as a hideout during the smuggler raids. No one came here anymore. He pulled open the rusted door, and they slipped inside. The place smelled like old oil and metal dust, but it was sheltered. Jason sealed the door. They sat in the dark. Nova leaned against the wall, exhausted. Jason lit small lamp and looked at her face. Her glow was dimmer now. Her skin looked pale, like she had drained herself. "Rest," he said softly. "I'll keep watch." Nova reached for his hand. "Jason, they won't stop." He squeezed her fingers. "Neither will I." Hours passed. Jason stayed by the door, listening. Outside, the storm screamed. Then, a sudden silence. No wind. No. Just stillness. Jason grabbed his scanner and checked. His heart dropped. Multiple heat signatures. Moving. Fast. They had found the canyon. Jason ran back to Nova. "We have to go. Now." She stood slowly, wobbling. But then, she turned toward the wall, toward a dusty terminal. "What are you doing?" he asked. "I can stop them." Jason shook his head. "Nova, we have to run." But she was already typing. Her fingers danced across the old console, like magic. Wires sparked. Lights came alive then. A sound. Deep. Echoing. Mechanical. From beneath the outpost, something old began to move. Jason looked around. "What is this?" Nova turned to him, her voice weak but steady. "This outpost was once a mining station. I accessed the defense system." Jason blinked. "It still works?" Nova nodded. "Enough to scare them." Outside, shadows closed in. Jason loaded his pistol. Nova stood beside him, then whispered, "If they take me, they'll make more." Jason looked at her in shock. "More, like you?" She nodded. "They won't stop until someone fights back." Jason tightened his grip. "Then let's make sure they don't take you." The ground shook. From below, 3 massive mining arms burst out, rusted, but still powerful. They swung blindly in the storm, breaking the silence with metal screams. The collectors paused. One drone moved forward. Nova raised her hand. A pulse of light flashed from her palm, hitting the drone. It crashed in the dust. Jason stared in awe. "You're not a pet. You're a weapon." Nova looked at him. "No," she said softly. "I was made as one, but I choose to be something else." Asterisk. The sky was on fire, not from bombs, but from flares. Bright red streaks fell from the collector ship above, lighting up the desert like a burning warning. Each flare was a message. "We know you're here. There's no place left to run." Jason stood at the edge of the cliff, watching. His face was dusty, his shirt torn, his pistol holstered but ready. Beside him, Nova sat with her back against a rock, breathing hard. Her glow had faded to almost nothing. She had used up too much energy in the last fight. And the collectors were sending more. Jason dropped his pack on the ground and opened a small panel inside. There, hidden under tools and spare wires, was a small black cube. Old tech. Illegal tech, a signal scrambler. He turned to Nova. "We use this. They can't track us. But it only lasts 1 hour." Nova nodded weakly. 1 hour is enough if we run now." Jason looked toward the distant hills. "I know someone who might help, but it's risky." Nova's lips moved slowly. "Everything is risky now." Jason activated the cube. It hissed with blue light and pulsed once. He picked Nova up gently. She was light, too light, like her body was trying to shut down. Rusty rolled beside them, his wheels quiet on the sand. The wind was rising again, but this time, it was on their side. They ran with it. 30 minutes later, Jason reached a hidden junkyard half buried under dunes. A rusted satellite dish poked out from the rubble like a metal finger pointing at the stars. Jason knocked on the hatch beside it. Once, twice, pause, then once more. A scanner blinked red. Then the door opened. A tall insectoid alien stood inside, covered in grease and goggles. Jason grinned. "Hey Rex," the alien hissed. "Last time you came here, you blew up my drone." "Yeah," Jason replied. "But I brought you something better this time." He stepped aside. Nova stood there barely awake. Rex's eyes widened. "What is she?" Jason's voice dropped. "Trouble." Inside the junkyard bunker, Nova sat on a bench while Rex scanned her with shaky hands. Jason explained everything, how he found her, what she could do, and how the collectors were after her. Rex's eyes narrowed. "Jason, this girl isn't just tech. She's prototype-grade biocoding. Living AI merged with organic tissue. I've seen it in lab rumors. I thought it was fake." Jason looked at Nova, who watched them silently. "She's not fake," Jason said. "She's alive, and she wants to live free." Rex pulled out a small glowing chip. "This is a jump key, one-time use. It'll get you off this planet, any direction, but it's unstable." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Unstable? How? Like, it might melt your bones unstable," Rex said. Jason looked at Nova, then back at the chip. "We'll take the risk," Rex sighed. "Of course you will. You always drag doom into my shop." That night, Jason and Nova prepared for the jump. The collectors would reach them by morning. Nova sat alone near the launch pad, watching the stars. Jason walked over and sat beside her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly, tired, but clear. Jason looked up at the night sky. "You sure you want to go? I could hide you again." Nova looked at him. Her eyes were soft now, but strong. "No more hiding," Jason smiled. "Guess we're both tired of that." Suddenly, Rusty beeped. Warning lights flashed on Rex's console. "Incoming ship. Fast. Low. Arm." Rex shouted. "You've got 2 minutes tops." Jason grabbed Nova's hand. They ran to the jump pad. The engine whined. The key glowed bright blue. Jason looked at her. "Ready?" Nova looked at him and whispered, "Thank you for seeing me." Jason squeezed her hand. "I didn't just see you, Nova. I chose you." The launch fired. A column of light burst into the sky, cutting through the night like lightning. Behind them, the collector ship dropped into view, weapons glowing. But they were too late. Nova and Jason vanished into the stars, leaving fire and dust behind, somewhere in deep space. The jump ended with a crash. Their ship spun wildly before slamming into ice-blue sand. The air was thin but safe. The sky was dark purple. Jason coughed and helped Nova stand. She looked around, then smiled for the first time. "Home," she whispered. Jason blinked. "This is your world?" Nova nodded. Then her eyes narrowed. "They'll come here too. They never stop." Jason pulled his pistol and smiled back. "Then let's build something that can." Nova stood barefoot on the cold blue sand, her silver hair dancing in the alien wind. For the first time in her life, no walls surrounded her, no collars, no cages, just sky, and the sound of her home breathing quietly beneath her feet. But this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a fight. Jason finished scanning the area with his handheld tracker. Nothing yet. No drones. No signals. "We've got a little time." Nova looked up at the sky, purple and silent. "They'll find this world. They always do." Jason looked at her. "Then we make sure it's not an easy visit." Over the next few days, they built. Jason used his old skills, wiring, programming, and scrap-building. Nova used knowledge hidden deep inside her codes. Frequencies, even alien tech Jason couldn't understand. Together, they made traps, shields, signal blockers, and something else. Nova crafted a beacon, not for distress, but for hope. A hidden signal that would call others like her, others who escaped, others who remembered. On the 5th night, Nova woke Jason from sleep. "I had a memory," she whispered. "Not from the lab, from before, a woman's face, like mine." She sang. Jason sat up. Your mother? Nova nodded. They wiped my thoughts. But some are coming back. Jason smiled. Then you weren't made. You were taken. Nova blinked. Then maybe I can still be me. The next morning, the sky cracked open. 3 collector ships dropped through the clouds. Dark and angry, Nova's glow returned bright now, like fire under glass. Jason grabbed his pistol. Let's finish this. The first drone entered the valley and exploded. Nova's signal traps tore through their systems. Like lightning through dry trees. The second ship tried landing, but the terrain collapsed. Jason had set charges in the ground. The third ship hovered overhead. Then, a voice boomed from it. Return the prototype. Or be eliminated. Jason stepped forward. He held no weapon. Just Nova's hand. He spoke clearly. She's not a prototype. She's free. Come take her and see what happens. For a long moment, the ship hovered. Then drones dropped. Fast, sharp, silent. But Nova raised her hand, and the sky pulsed blue. The drones froze. Their lights blinked. One by one, they turned and flew upward, straight into the ship that sent them, and detonated. Jason shielded his eyes. When the light faded, only smoke remained. Nova dropped to her knees, breathing hard. Jason ran to her. Nova, she looked up, tired but smiling. They were all networked. I turned them against the code. Jason helped her stand. You won. She shook her head. We won. Days later, Nova stood by a new signal tower. Jason brought her warm drink and a blanket. Think anyone will hear your message? He asked. Nova smiled softly. They already did. Jason turned. From the sky, a ship was landing, not black, not armed. Bright, clean, peaceful. When it opened, others like Nova stepped out. Different colors, different ages, but the same glow in their skin and the same look in their eyes. Colon survivors. Nova ran to them. They embraced her, spoke her language, called her by a name Jason had never heard. Kaylin. She looked back at Jason. And smiled. Later she sat beside him on the hill. You saved me, she said. Jason shook his head. No, you saved yourself. I just gave you a place to begin. Nova looked up at the stars. Then leaned against him. You bought a smart pet, she whispered with a laugh. Jason laughed too. Worst purchase of my life. She looked at him with glowing eyes. Best mistake of mine. They sat in silence. No more fear. No more cages, just sky, wind, and the sound of a world reborn. And as stars blinked above them, Jason knew he hadn't just rescued someone, he had found family.